I am Frederik, and today's conversation is a little bit special because in a few months we'll be traveling to the Bahamas together with an international group of participants for the NLP Consultant Certification training led by Dr. Joseph Riggio and Henrik Wenøe. At the same time, we'll also be filming a documentary exploring leadership, consulting, and communication, and really the human capability in a world that's changing incredibly fast. And what personally excites me about this project is that it's not just another NLP training. It's really about understanding how to work with people, organizations, and systems at a much deeper level, and exploring what actually creates value when information tools and technology become increasingly accessible to everyone. So today, I want to sit down with Joseph and Henrik to talk a bit about why they created this training, why they felt there was a need for an NLP consultant certification specifically, and what people can expect from this experience in the Bahamas. So first of all, thank you both for being here. And let's start with you, Henry.
Hmm.
Why did you and Joseph feel there was a need for this separate NLP consultant certification?
I think fundamentally because a lot of NLP trainings you really focus on how you can work effectively with a person one to one and how to really create massive change rapidly with that person. And again, for consultants, you're not only working with one person, you're working with a team or a department or a whole organization. So we just found that there was a need to teach people how to bring this skill set into that context. So again, for a certified NLP practitioner or master, it's not that they have to learn a lot of new things. They can actually bring the toolbox with them, and then we will show them how they can apply it in a broader setting. And again, it sounds like, okay, why do I need a training for that? And again, my own experience is that learning a skill set in a certain frame make you really good in that frame. If you want to apply it in a different frame, it's not that easy to make this map over of skills. And I think this is really what we will show people during these 6 days is how they can take the skill set and apply it in a broader context. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to just add in that I agree with what Henrik is saying here. And the specific context, of course, we're talking about is business. So when we think about consulting, we're not talking about doing consulting like a surgeon's a consultant in medicine or something. Our focus in these 6 days will be on how to work with business owners and founders and executives and directors and people who are on the line trying to develop outcomes that are business-based outcomes. And a lot of people who will be in the training, we're sure, have business-based backgrounds. They come from business, they've been in business. There's others who may come with less experience as business people per se, but great experience as NLP practitioners or master practitioners, even trainers. And the distinction here is how to take the skill set of NLP, which is very particular, and apply it in the business context without having to be a business genius. So we're not talking about the idea of becoming a strategy genius or a marketing genius or how to do finance in business. Those are specialized skills. And if somebody brings them, they'll be able to apply them even better with the NLP material that we'll share with them, the insights and techniques. But even without any business background, having a strong NLP orientation and understanding how to apply it to business allows you to reveal things to business owners and executives and entrepreneurs that they might otherwise realize about their business that will transform their business. It'll help them experience growth, retention of employees, working better and more effectively with clients and advisors. So we're changing, if you want to call it that, these incredibly powerful tools that NLP brings us, which are fundamentally communication tools, and saying, how do we focus them with laser-like precision on the application we call business?
Okay. And when you first presented this idea, Joseph, of an NLP consultant certification to Richard Bandler, one of the founders of NLP, what was his reaction?
I think Richard was pleasantly surprised, is my answer. He was, Richard and I know each other a long time. I'm very friendly with Richard, and especially through his association with John Laval, who's a personal friend and colleague of mine. And I saw a need in the marketplace where NLP was being used by some people, actually a very small group of people comparatively, in these applications, in the business applications. And everybody at the time was exploding around NLP with coaching. And coaching is a phenomenal skill to have. I'm not saying it in any way diminishes what we're trying to do or what we're doing diminishes that. They're different skills. So the ability to look at how an outcome is produced by an individual or a group of people in a business context related to business necessities and understanding that almost always that involves how do you relate to clients and how do you integrate different agendas and people's requirements and overlay them one on top of another is a totally different approach than somebody who's coaching someone to perform better inside their own experience in their own world. So bringing this skill into a group setting, as Henrik mentioned, and then adding on top of that the insights that are necessary specifically in a context of business, which include, for instance, ethical considerations. There's many considerations we'll be talking about and bringing, was something that Richard thought was always available and present in the world. And he knew people like John, my friend, who does a lot of business consulting, who were using NLP effectively, but saw the gap that I did. So he was thrilled and he knew my background. He knew how many years I'd been doing work in business. I had mentioned that I'd probably be engaging Henrik to do this with me. He knew Henrik as well. And because he had a certain degree of insight and confidence in our ability to deliver, he was very quick to authorize the training.
Hmm. So to me and to everybody tuning in here, it sounds like this is not an introductory NLP course. And if it's not clear for everybody, you and Henrik, you've been doing this for quite a while. And when you began developing this training, did you always imagine that Henrik would be a part of it? And if so, why Henrik specifically?
Well, first of all, I wanted this to be a very powerful training. I didn't want this to be just another come to a few days and hang out with Henrik and Joseph or whatever and get some more NLP stuff. That was never my intention. It was to be a radically transformative experience where people would see a tremendous shift that they could immediately apply in their practice of NLP, in the way that they worked with people in NLP, and in the effects they produced, the results they got with clients. And so immediately, because of my background working with Henrik for so many years, we've been working together for over 20 years, and we've done a lot of work together in business context. I knew Henrik could bring insights about what it's like to do actual business consulting work at a very high level. Somebody who has produced seven-figure years in his own business can bring an insight that somebody who doesn't ever have had that experience, did not do that work the way he's done, would benefit from. And I knew I had certain skills that are different than Henrik's. We work very well together, but we work very differently as well. And the availability of having two different people in the room who bring two different skill sets in the same domain of application really makes it more available to somebody sitting in that room and go, oh, I don't have to be like Joseph. I don't have to be like Henrik, because both of them are different enough that it allows me to recognize I can be myself and create outcomes that are going to be as effective as either of these gentlemen are doing.
I like that. So, Henrik, you've spoken before about the difference between coaching and consulting. What do you mean by consulting in this context?
I think for me, of course, there are some similarities because it's really about understanding where is it that you want to bring the system. And the system can be an individual you're coaching, or it can be a team or organization you're moving. So it's really, I think both of the process are really about creating this appealing future and then help the system move in that direction. So that's basically the same. But as Joseph already mentioned earlier, but when you're working with a team or a whole organization, it's just more complex. There's more stakeholders, there's different agendas at play. And again, understanding how you align these different agendas, these different priorities, so that it doesn't end up in a struggle or fight between different interests, but that people can really align towards that common future. I think that that's the main difference in how you do this in an elegant way without using the old cutter idea about a sense of urgency, burning platform, and scaring people into action, but rather developing this burning desire that can pull the whole organization in the direction they really want and need to create the outcome that they most want for the organization. I think, and this is really for me the main difference is how do you help people move from being a group of people to becoming a high performance team or high performance organization where everyone is being pulled in the same direction. Not by being pushed, but by creating this pull from the future. I think this is really the main distinction, as I would say it. I don't know if you have anything to add here, Joseph.
It makes me think of something. I did some work with an organization years ago called Southwest Trains in the UK, and they were going through some major transitions.
Mhm.
They had in my opinion, a brilliant young CEO, and he proved himself out over the years by going on to doing some very significant major things. He's still doing significant major things. Name of Andrew Hines. And what I was doing with them was exactly what Henrik was talking about. They needed to transition to a different future. The future that they had built was based upon all of the past successes they had and the way they created those successes. Those successes were now creating interference in some regard to the way that labor and management interacted. They were dealing with things like potential strikes from guards and conductors and engineers, and they needed to resolve the way they interacted in terms of this larger group systemic environment. And so we worked off-site for a number of days with another gentleman that I worked with at that time. And we developed a program that very quickly, I think we had fundamentally 3 or 4 off days of 2 days apiece. And over the course of that year of intervention working with them, they developed communication skills and tools that didn't just change the nature of dealing with strikes, they eliminated the strikes. The strikes never happened. They were able to negotiate and change the relationships between management and labor. And because of that, the results they were able to produce were significant in terms of multiples of any kind of fee we could have charged them. So it almost didn't matter what we charged for the work because the savings and the value that we brought to Southwest Trains exceeded that by many, many multiples. And this is the distinction I think that consulting offers and brings because it's very clear to a client when you do it well and you've designed a project correctly and you understand what the project requires to produce in terms of providing value, that you can then enter into an environment where your skills are being rewarded at a very high level. But more than that, you're bringing results and outcomes that are even greater than what it is you're receiving yourself for the work that you're providing.
So, Henrik, I know you've obviously worked extensively in Denmark through Acuity World, but also internationally with people from different cultures all around the world and industries for that matter. What have you noticed about working across countries and cultures in this kind of work?
I would say that what is most striking to me is what surprised most of our clients, and that's how similar humans are around the world. And I think the power of what Joseph and I bring to you in this training is a set of strategies that's so fundamental that are they are deeper than culture. So I would call them pre-cultural skill set. So if you master these skill set, you will be able to apply them anywhere in the world because they're designed to work with human and human systems. And I think again, when you look at how organizations are structured in South Korea, in France, in Denmark, in US, in Brazil, of course there are differences because there's different power distance or there are different cultures, there's different things you do and don't do. But what really brings it together is that there's humans everywhere, and humans are much more alike than they are different. And we tend often to focus on this 0.5% that's maybe is different. And then we forget about all the similarities in these systems. And I think if you understand how humans fundamentally is organized and function, you will be able to bring this skill set anywhere in the world and really produce results. And you will be able to help global organization function as a global entity because you will give them a framework that will make it much more easy for them to act as one. In a way, you will resolve the barriers and you will create what I would call free flow between the different entities because they will get a common mindset, a common language to interact. And it's just so powerful. And I think this is what we have seen with, I think most of the global project we have been running is that I can put people into a room where, and I think last week in Frankfurt, I had a group with a participant from South Korea, from Australia, from Kazakhstan, from Poland, from Germany, from Belgium, from Denmark, from Spain. And basically, if if you didn't knew, if you couldn't see that there was different colors or different languages, you wouldn't have been able to tell that they were from different countries. And I think that that's really, and this is not only what we do, I think is some of the same power you also find in NLP, that the different strategies that Bandler and Grinder have elicited through the years are also so fundamental that they work in any culture.
Mhm.
Every time I talk to you guys, especially when I bring you guys into the same room, I always come to think about, well, it's so simple what these guys are talking about. But I also increasingly notice you, Joseph, and you, Henrik, when you go on a rant, you can feel that there is a little bit more complexity underneath it. I know that you guys also shooting a documentary in the Bahamas. Could you put a few words to what are you hoping this documentary will be able to bring forward? And what is it going to be about? Is this going to be about the last 25 years you guys been working together, or what are you hoping to bring out with this documentary? And why the Bahamas?
I think it have absolutely nothing to do with the past 30 years and everything to do about the future we want to be able to create. And it's, I think basically, I think it's, we have talked about it on and off for a few years. And then I talked to Joseph back in February. I just came back from a training in Barcelona where I have introduced some of these ideas to a global group of sales directors. And I was struck that none of them had heard about that you could actually start from where the problem isn't. None of them had been introduced to the idea of the power of having a future memory, of actually really deeply understanding the future you want to create. And I say, okay, I called Joseph and said, what have we done wrong? I have been personally active with this for more than 25 years. Joseph have another 15 years to add to that. So how come that we can still meet highly qualified people that are still starting from what's the problem? Let's create a burning platform. We need to find out what to fix. And again, the fundamental idea in this documentary is that we want to inspire decision makers at the highest level on how they can make higher quality decisions, which will allow not only them, but all of us to actually get the future, a future that's worth living in. And I think to access that future, you cannot start from a problem. You need to understand how you can start from what's working, because otherwise you will not mentally have access to that future. So I think for me, that's one of the core ideas we want to present. And I think again, we would like to take it even a step further. Having this need of always needing to scare people into action is a highly unethical strategy. So I think to be frank, I'm tired of being in a world where whole population are being scared into action daily. Just look at the news, listen to any election around the world, even listen to CEOs and how they try to motivate their people. I think 8 out of 10 are using fear-based communication. And I think it's time for an update. And this is really the core idea we want to communicate in this movie. And that's also why we call it Before the Future Arrives, because I think there's something you can do before you end up in your future. And be careful what you do before the future, because that have a big impact on the future you will end up living.
Mhm. Yeah, I want to answer two parts of what you asked, if you don't mind, Frederik. And Henrik put that beautifully in terms of the outcomes and desires and the drives and what we hope to accomplish. The two things I just want to add on top of that, the bit that is in addition to would be that number one, Henrik says you can't start from the problem. I want to go a little deeper and say you can't be the problem. So some people organize their life where they experience themselves as being inside of a problem in an ongoing and consistent way. They're constantly striving not to get hurt, not to have something bad happen, not to find something that's going to interfere with the life they want to be having. And they're looking out for that all the time. So they literally start from a position where their whole perspective, how they recognize and interact with what they call reality, is based on the problem idea that reality itself is threatening. So we want to shift that. We want to make reality inviting. We want to do what Einstein referred to as making that choice between whether the universe is malevolent, dangerous, bad, threatening, or benevolent, good, possible, open. And that shift is fundamental to what I hope the documentary will offer some insight into. And you asked the question about why the Bahamas, because this is about helping people to understand what it's like when you start from this position where before anything happens, before there's any evidence whatsoever, you feel good about being alive. You feel good about who you are and the opportunities that you've had, as well as the ones that haven't yet happened. And the Bahamas is a beautiful place to do that. It's just a gorgeous island. I've been there many times. I've had a lot of conch salad, which is one of the specialties of the island. And it's got palm trees and sand and water and people and beaches, and the Bahamian people themselves are lovely. So it's just a place where I can't imagine we're going to be spending the 3 days that we'll be doing the filming without feeling good ourselves about being there. And that's just going to come through. And when you're around that kind of an experience, whether it's the Bahamian people or the Bahamas as a physical place, and you experience it, what begins to happen is you shift. You begin to recognize this vast well of potentiality and possibility that we possess as human beings. And I've seen this happen over and over again. I've watched, people get off a plane when they're going on vacation, and from the minute they step onto the ground where they've now arrived to enter vacation, even before they pick up their baggage, I watch them change. Their faces light up, their eyes begin to sparkle, they begin to have animated conversations with their families. And this is the kind of life that's possible. But why wait till you're on vacation? Why not wake up tomorrow morning starting that way for the rest of your life?
And I would
I
add
like
here,
that.
not just for yourself, but if you're a leader, having this kind of skill set will have an impact not only on you and your family, but on your whole organization and what's that capable of producing.
Hmm.
And,
I'm not
and
sure
as
if
Henrik
this
said, for
last
the work.
question is going to be
Yeah.
relevant, but if someone is considering attending this training, what would you want them to understand about this particular experience? But I think you already kind of answered that.
Mhm.
So
Sorry,
Let
sorry.
me jump in there. You got ahead of the game there, Henrik. The uh, the thing that I would say is that this training is distinct from all the other NLP trainings I've been to, and I've been to a lot of NLP trainings. I'm approaching my 40th year around NLP. So I've been to a lot of trainers, and I've been to a lot of great trainers, people in the room who really have done some magnificent training. I've been in front of a few, very few, but a few truly transformational trainers who you can't help but leave the room feeling different about who you are and what you are after you spend some time with them. My personal mentor, Roy Frazier, was amongst those. Richard Bandler in his moments of spectacular presentation does that in what seems to be an almost effortless way. So the idea is that although people have been to NLP trainings and they've developed some skills or some knowledge, or maybe they've just read some books, I don't know how they got into it, or watched YouTube videos, the experience of being intentionally and thoughtfully walked through how to change and transform lives is a different thing than reading about it or being in front of somebody who's teaching you techniques and applications. This is going to be what we call a whole form training. We're not going to talk about what you do as an NLP consultant and how you apply these skills in a business setting. We're going to immerse you in what it's like to experience the kind of changes that we want you to leave being able to do. Whether those changes on the front end, our first 3 days, are going to be about the specific skills, and also in addition, how you can use AI as a force multiplier with your skills in this business context, given how powerful AI has become, how incredibly instantaneous getting information and doing research and applying it is now possible for us. So we're looking at specific ways for you to become a force multiplier in the work you do with others. In those second 3 days of the 6-day certification, we're going to look at how do you build projects? How do you think like a transformational change artist? Somebody who's going beyond just layering surface skills and some capabilities, but going all the way into the identity of the individuals and the organization itself, so it changes and moves in a way that's irreplicable. It won't ever be able to go back to what it was. The people you work with will never be who they were before they interacted with you. So to bring this environment of true, profound transformation into a room with people who want to work with business environments, who want to be working with organizations, who want to change society and culture itself by being able to do large-scale group work is something that excites me and something I think is not typically available in, I'm going to say, 90 plus of the NLP trainings that I've been exposed to and what I know is going on that will focus on skills and applications and techniques.
I rest my case. Henrik Wenøe, do you have any last words before we finish this beautiful conversation?
No, I don't know. I think again, I just look forward to seeing all of you there and give you an amazing experience that you can bring back home and share with your clients, with your family and your friends. And we have done this certification trainings a number of times before in Denmark, in Sweden. Last time was on Iceland back in 24. And we have just gotten tremendous feedback from the participant there. Some of them have even joined more than once because, again, even though it's the same program, working with Joseph, I know that it's never the same program. So, so I think even if you have attended before, I think again, because you are in a new spot, we are in a new spot, you will bring new learning back from Bahamas. So, so again, there, I really look forward to this, and I hope this video today have given you at least a high level insight into what you can expect from bringing back home with you from Bahamas. And again, if you have any more and deeper question, please reach out to us, and we will be happy to share some more information with you if you need that.
Yes. Personally, I'm incredibly excited about starting off because this is going to be in August. So not coming back from summer vacation feeling like you need a little bit more vacation, but coming back from, I call it a vacation, but an investment into yourself, into a world that is full of possibilities that you are excited about living right now, because you could be fearful about the future and AI, or you could invest where AI can never replace you. And to me, this is exactly the opportunity to do that. So thank you guys for still doing this amazing work 30, 40 years into the game. And I hope I see everyone listening here in today in the Bahamas. We have limited spaces, but if there is a fight for them, maybe we'll do another cohort later in the year.
Yeah. Let me just say at the end of it, the Bahamas, I said I've been to many times, and you're going to walk around and you're going to hear a lot of Bob Marley music. It's part of the people, it's part of the land. I think it's part of the soul of the place. And one of the things that comes to mind when I think of that is Bob's song, One Love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right.
With those words, God bless.
Thank you.